Hi, everyone, and welcome to the Road to Becoming a Voice Actor podcast, episode 2. We are the weekday crew here. I am your moderator for today's discussion, Michael Alio. I am an independent voice actor, writer, and editor for. I work freelance basically. Here joining me today is my lovely co host. You can see her in the Road to Becoming a Voice Actor trailer available on our YouTube channel. One, the only, Miss Gianna Lynn.
Hi.
My other co-host today is Nadia. She is a journalist for Brutal Gamer. Say hi, Nadia.
Hi, great to be here.
And finally, our fourth co-host for the day is Colin. He is an independent creator. Say hi to the people, Colin.
Hey, everybody.
And our topic today, everyone, is basically what do you do when you're starting out? What should you be doing? So we're just going to dive right into the discussion here. Colin, I'm going to direct this first one at you. Why did you become interested in voice acting?
Let's see. Well, the thing that really got me into voice acting at first was when I was growing up, people would always say, "Hey, you have a voice for radio," that cliche line. So I kind of started getting into it with the local radio stations, and I really became more interested in the character and voice work through choir whenever I was in high school because singing in other languages got me more interested in doing different dialects. So I became a voice coach rather than an actor, and I kept getting cast for roles, but they were live theater, and I never liked being on stage, which led me to become a voice actor because I didn't have to be on stage, but I could still do all that stuff I loved.
Becoming a voice coach before becoming a voice actor, would that say you got some unique perspective coming into this, if you know what I'm saying?
Yeah, I think that honestly it gave me kind of an edge over people because other voice actors are jumping into it thinking, huh, how am I going to create this voice? And I would jump into something being like, this is how I would tell so and so to create this voice, so why don't I try that technique?
And now I think I'm going to ask, what was your first project like? How did you get started going on there, going from like, okay, I'm daydreaming about voice acting, but what am I going to do to take that next step to actually get cast for a role?
Let me think. I would say the first big thing that I did to try to break into voice acting was I went to the same local theater that I'd worked for before, and I auditioned for them with the roles like the big narrator at the beginning, telling the story of the musical that's about to happen. That kind of that faceless voice that you hear before everything. And then after a while, I switched over to just being their intro voice that tells, please, no food or drinks in the theater. Please, don't do this, don't do that. Do watch the musical and enjoy. So that's kind of how I got into it.
And yeah, I mean, I'll honestly say I could see you doing that. You sound like one of those guys you'll see going like, "Hey, no parking outside, kids. Please keep your hands and feet inside the vehicle at all times."
Get off my lawn.
Exactly. You know, I guess I'm gonna ask Gianna, why'd you become interested in voice acting? What drove you to like try your hand, go for it?
It's interesting, voice acting is actually something I stumbled into, 'cause I kind of found Casting Call Club, through a friend's, recommendation for a singing audition, and then I saw it was a community for voice actors, and I was like, "This is my door back into acting." Because I started acting when I was 13. I majored in it, for a year in college, but my schedule got so busy after that because I was pursuing a music career. So, acting had to take a back seat, but, I always really liked anime, of course. I started watching anime in, 2012 or so hearing the ranges of voices on that always really interested me. So I would, try a hand at mocking them when, no one was home and no one could hear me kinda thing, but, I don't know, once I found Casting Call Club, it was something I just kinda, fully went for, all the way.
So you mentioned that you were majoring in acting for a year in college. What made you decide to switch? I mean, why didn't you stick with it?
I found myself after class every day playing the pianos on campus because there was, like, pianos in, like, every building on campus, and it was wonderful, so I could just go after class and play and write and just pour my soul into my music, and when I realized that that was what I was looking forward to the most every day, I figured maybe I should pursue music full force as opposed to acting and maybe try to find a way to do acting in my spare time, which, took 5 years to actually find.
Yeah, I mean, I can honestly see that because for so many people, it's like acting is their life. That is what they want to do. But I think being a voice actor, what I've kind of learned is that you can't just be great at one thing. Like I'm sure some people make it into this business just on their voice alone, but I think you'll get the majority of people sharing their stories saying that they're also writing or they're also directing or they're also an audio engineer. So for all you guys listening, know that right now, if you're looking to break in, one of the most helpful ways that you can do that is by having another skill. If you're a passionate writer, a great singer, or a great musician, I mean, those are all excellent traits to have. And make sure you reach out to your project creators because I am sure that they would be thrilled to have you guys answer that. I think we have some time here for another person to respond to this segment. So Nadia, uh, you have a very interesting background in why you got into voice acting. I mean, why don't you go ahead and tell everyone what made you
Sure.
decide to give it a shot?
Okay, well, my story is not traditional in the sense that, oh, I always loved to act. Well, it's part of it, but basically, I have been doing interviews for the last couple of years with voice actors in the industry from anime to video games and stuff like that. And after conversing with everybody for so long, I just thought that it would be really cool to give back to the community and just say that, hey, I want to contribute to this because these people have become so important to me, and I just wanted to re give back that generosity to talk to people and to also just be a part of this community that's been so great. It's not just about, oh hey, I want to make funny voices in the microphone. It's more making of a connection, and based on what I've met for people, they've actually just been so generous because they didn't have to sit down with me and talk to me. They did it because they chose to, and they actually found time in their busy schedule just to say, "Hey, we would love to do an interview with you, Nadia." And I've just been really touched by that, and I wanted to give back to the community. And I've taken acting classes throughout high school when I was a teenager, and I took that for about 3 years because somebody in middle school, I think it was a teacher of mine, had said, Nadia, you're very good at acting. And I wasn't sure how to respond to that. But I took it for 3 years and I learned a lot. But then I always get curious about many different things, so I didn't stick with acting. But because of my journalism career, I wanted to give back to the community and be a part of it. And so far, it's been great.
And to build on top of that, Nadia is a journalist at brutalgamer.com. You should go check her out, guys. They do some fantastic stuff. Nadia, you've actually interviewed some big names in the industry like Tara Platt and Yuri Lowenthal. They are some of the biggest names in voice acting. I know there's a book that I recommend to every single voice actor, which is the How to Become a Voice Actor or Voiceover Voice Actor, what it's like behind the mic. And those guys put together just a great compilation of tips and tricks for people looking to break into the industry. I guess my question to you, Nadia, is
Yeah.
what's it like to, meet those guys and what do you get and glean from them when you're talking to them about their experiences breaking into voice acting?
Well, I last spoke to Yuri and Tara 3 years ago, so I haven't spoken to them since. But what I got from that is that they're very humble in what they were telling me, and I was really struck by that. And basically, they're giving us so many advices based on the question that I had asked them about how do you get into voice acting or so and so or talk about a certain role. It's just the advice that I've been gaining from each person. You know, they may have said something, and I would remember it like years down the line. And Tara and Yuri are very humble people. You guys should support them in any way that you can. Yuri told me the reason why they wrote the book was because they had received so many emails from people asking them, how do you get into voice acting? So he and Tara decided to publish their book and answer all of the questions that they had received over the years, because they couldn't respond to everybody individually, although they did before. It just became so time consuming. So they wanted to create a book where all of the answers that they were wondering about is right there. So that's how that came to be as well.
For all of us here on the Road to Becoming a Voice Actor podcast, that is our end goal. We want to grow as voice actors as well as, learn with our listeners. If you guys have any tips for us, if you want to share some of your knowledge, we welcome that, and we really want to feature that on the show. We really want people to understand that being a voice actor is attainable. It's a community effort. It takes having people skills. You can't just go on it by yourself. It's all up to you to really reach out and start on that journey. With that segment out of the way, why don't we move on, guys? I think Anna, you touched on this in the last topic. One of the most popular websites for beginning voice actors is actually www.castingcallclub.com, which is where we all really met each other. Anna, how did you find Casting Call Club? Why'd you decide to give it a shot? Why did you go to the website and give your first audition?
It's an interesting story, actually. I had recently reconnected with a friend, and he told me that a channel he subscribed to on YouTube called Sully Orchestrations, they're amazing, was looking for a female vocalist for a cover that they were doing. So I was like, okay, yeah, no, I guess I'll check it out. Why not? So that was my first time ever going to the casting call club site, and after auditioning, I was like, "I'll browse the site a little bit, like, maybe I can find more things to get involved in." And then I saw it was for voice actors, a community of voice actors, and I was like, my first thought was, "This is it. This is my door back into acting," and I never looked back after that because 'cause I'd been searching for so long for a way to act in my spare time, and it was, like, the optimal circumstances, you know?
I mean, it sounds like to me a light bulb just went off in your head when you saw the website and decided to audition. I think, did your passion for music kind of help you in any way while you've been looking at casting call?
Yeah, I would say so, and I think that being a musical performer in general has because when you're giving a performance on stage, it really doesn't get through to people unless you fully feel the song and, like, you almost I know this is probably gonna sound weird, but you become one with the song, like, every chord, every word, every lyric, the emotions through it, and that rings so true when you're an actor because you have to completely become that person or being in that situation. So I think that being a musical performer has definitely helped me translate some skills over into acting.
If you guys don't already know, go follow Gianna Lynn Music on twitter.com, where Gianna is a full-time indie musician where she has put together some fantastic stuff. New album coming out near the end of the episode, but moving on. Colin, you are one of the more senior voice actors I know here on the podcast. You've been actually voice acting semi-professionally for how many years has it been now?
Let's see. I've been voice acting for about 6. I've been in the audio industry for over a decade now.
Can I ask you, what has your experience been with Casting Call Club? I mean, why did you decide to come together and, try and help people out with these passion projects like this podcast?
Well, the thing that made me want to be in something like Casting Call Club was the fact that I was doing all this big work. Like, I'm doing all these ebooks, I'm doing just voiceovers for companies, things like that. And I wanted to do some smaller things that don't take as much time to do. And I'm willing to do them for free because of that. But also things that could help me grow as a character actor because I'm always the announcer. I'm always that that booming voice that's at the beginning of whatever they want. And I wanted to get more into character acting and try to become just that, really.
Yeah, and it seems like for those of you who are just kind of in the dream sort of state of mind for voice acting, I would say 90% of voice work is in the audiobook, commercial, and narration side of this. And I think Colin, you're kind of touching on that right now. Your experience voice acting for 6 years has been on that side. And you're trying to break into the more character-driven side of voice acting, which includes like, animation and video games. I mean, do you have any advice to listeners for where they should start when they're trying to get into the narration or commercial game?
I'd say that the best resources that I have for getting into the narration game, especially, is things like ACX, which is Amazon's audiobook service. You can sign up for free, just put your samples on there, and then audition for any audiobook that's on their site, and then you'll get immediate feedback as soon as the actual author listens to your narration and decides if they want you or not.
I'd say audiobook narration is a totally different beast than a lot of the stuff you'll find on Casting Call Club. It takes a lot more stamina, I guess I'd say, because those narrations can get pretty wrong. Am I wrong?
Oh yeah, it's a lot of work. Like some narrations, I know that the majority of work that I've done has been an audiobook with 8.5 hours just in the book reading,
Oh
which
man.
you don't record it all at once, obviously. Like I'll do a few chapters at a time, maybe 2 or 3 hours here and there, but it's still very taxing. And if you're looking to get into character work, audiobooks is definitely the way to go if you want to break into it through something else, because in audiobooks you get to show off like, oh, here's this older man, I can come up with a voice from him. Here's this person in the book, these different characters in the book that often authors want you to come up with voices to distinguish them from each other. So that's probably the best way to break into that. And if you're looking for the commercial world of voiceover, like being that big announcer voice, you're going to be on a car commercial or something like that, I don't know. If you want to do that sort of thing, the best way to do it is find local businesses and go to their websites, go to their YouTube channels, see what they've got on there, see what sorts of advertising they do, and then contact the company directly because they have an advertising budget. And if you just talk to them, say, "Hey, I noticed this advertisement you've got, and I really think that I could help bring it more to life, bring life to your project and bring more business to your company if you would give me a chance at voicing over this." And oftentimes they'll be like, "Yeah, that's in our budget. We can definitely pay you for that." Never send a sample until they ask for one, but definitely contact them and try to get them to look at you and respect you, but research the company before you do it because that's how you're going to get those jobs.
And I think that's a solid piece of advice right there. It's cold calling to your local businesses, but don't be pushy with your demo. Just basically reach out and try and have a conversation with them first. That's the most important thing than just trying to blatantly advertise yourself with your local demo. Now, Colin, there is a specific difference between character and narration voices. Now, could you give me an example of work you've done where that has kind of really made a striking difference?
I'd say the thing that really helped me switch between the two worlds was there was an audiobook I did that was more of a southern thing. It was this nice little southern town with a sheriff doing stuff the whole time. And I was switching between like, "Oh, I'm reading. Look at me. I'm the narrator of the story." And then I would just go into this whenever it was time for him to talk. It's just a good time, and that's really what bridged me between the two. And that difference is what got me into the world of character acting, was being able to do that and have people see, "Oh, he's not just this narration voice, he can also switch into a character voice," that sort of thing.
And I will say, from the copy that I've practiced with, there are you can certainly do that with commercial scripts as well, but it all really depends on what your client is going for, what they're looking for. Uh, for example, a lot of commercial work these days, they want a natural read. They want it to be your voice, like you're holding a conversation with the person watching the commercial. But then there are some spots where they're looking for a specific character accent. They're looking for something that's just completely zany to another segment. And I think this is something that we've basically been touching on this entire podcast. Nadia, what's one piece
Yes.
of advice you wish you received when you're first starting out in voice work?
I'm actually brand new to this whole voice acting thing. So I consider myself like a newborn baby in this industry because it's all new to me. I've always experienced the voice acting side of things through journalism, right? Through people talking to me. So this is like a whole new experience. But I think one piece of advice that I have wished that I could have received, but I haven't gotten anything yet, would be that don't stress over your audio equipment right away, because if you're stressing out, like say, well, I need this equipment or I need that equipment before you even start putting off your skills, right? It's all about putting your skills together, and don't wait to do that. You can always build on your equipment later as you go along if you really want to do this. You don't want to go broke before you even start. So my best advice would be just don't worry so much. Just if you're starting out, then don't stress is basically what I want to say, because you may get like deeper into this and then decide, well, it's not for me, so just don't worry about it. Just use the best what you have to start with, and then down the road just build on your equipment. And yeah.
And I think that makes a lot of sense for people looking to just who view this as a hobby right now, dipping their toe in the water, trying their hand. You don't need to run out and buy yourself a preamp and Audio Technica like 2035 microphone straight away. Casting Call Club is a great place for that. Like, they don't have strict audio requirements, and skill will most usually trump everything else. And that should be your most important thing that you're building up. And that's what you were saying, Nadia.
Yeah. The other thing that I want to add, if I may, is that, just also while you're learning to voice act, if you really want to get better at it, get some audio skills underneath your belt, such as learning how to edit background noise, just like little things like that could put you over get ready for the audition, right? So it'll get you prepared. So have some audio skills in your background. And most importantly, know how to act. That's what they're looking for.
Yeah, and I think that's great. Great programs exist. Like Audacity is free. I mean, I use that still for my auditions and everything, and that has a noise cancellation, a noise reduction feature where you can basically take a sample of the white noise in your room and apply that to your entire audition so that you're able to cancel out that white noise that will always appear no matter what microphone you're using. Yeah, and did you ever receive like didn't really mesh with what voice acting should be about?
Well, okay. Well, because I'm brand new, I haven't received any advice directly. But what I could say is this: my perception of finding the right voice for yourself. So I was talking to another voice actor recently. I actually had emailed her, and I made a comment by saying, find the sweet spot to your voice, find the sweet spot to your voice. But then she questioned and she says, "What do you exactly mean by that? I mean, just because a part of your voice is not sweet doesn't mean that you can't create a character out of the rough spots of your voice. So just be open to what your voice has to offer. And just because you may be fitting for like sweet characters, because she was giving me an example. She was saying, by the sound of your voice, you'd be better off with sweet characters. But don't be afraid to play around with what you got, and I guess the point is, don't I guess when somebody gives you advice like that, or just say find the sweet spot to your voice, it's not just about that. It's about exploration. So I don't know if that made total sense, but yeah, that's what I remember hearing from another voice actor. But I guess just don't be stuck in the ways of finding the perfect spot for your voice to work. You can actually make things work for you if you don't stress out your voice. So
No, I think I see what you're saying. I think one of
Yeah.
the problems that a lot of actors face is being typecast to a role. Like you'll see, actors like James Woods will often be the villain. Like I think his most famous role, one he continues to love doing, is Hades from, Hercules. He will play that character at any opportunity because he loves it. But at the same time, if you are just feeling like you're only getting roles for a specific type of character, don't be afraid to audition for something else. Just all you can do is really try your best, try your hardest. I think that's something that we all kind of need to keep in mind when we're voice acting and in life in general. When you were first starting out voice acting, what was a hard lesson you learned?
I have like 2 things that I've faced. The biggest would be attaining good sound quality, because that's a huge challenge. No matter what equipment you're working with, there's usually a way to make it work, to make it sound good. Um, the issue is I live in, like, an 140-year-old house in the middle of a city where there's cars going by all the time and creaks and people home, so it's hard to find quiet time and quiet space, but I have, like, an old ripped up memory foam mattress that I have up behind me, propped up by cardboard, and then I have, one of those, like, little vocal booth things, that I've stuffed with more foam, and it's just you gotta work with what you've got and try to make it as best as possible, but somehow I got verified on Casting Call Club with that.
You
Um
sound pretty good. I'm gonna say that right now.
Thank you. I think the other challenge would be, on a smaller scale, is that having a busy schedule, but wanting to audition for things, and then it's like I finally carve out the time to audition for a character only to go on the casting call to see that it's been cast already. So that's one of the biggest
Ugh.
issues.
Yeah, and I've had that happen before where I'm like, "Oh my gosh, I'm so excited to play for this role, but dang it, I just didn't
Yeah.
have the time." And I think that's something that, is incredibly important to voice actors, honestly, is just trying to be timely with everything, delivering as soon as you can. Unfortunately, it is kind of a business where, the quickest often receive the most opportunities. And I think, it sounds like, you've kind of learned that with everything that you've done, just starting out here. And, in regards to your sound booth, I think that's we got to get creative. I,
Absolutely.
I will
Yeah.
say that,
We're all creative people.
yeah, right now it's like, a great way to start out with, like, if you're looking at reducing just outside noise, a coat closet. But I know
Mhm.
so many people just don't have that available to them. So strapping a bunch of pillows and blankets together to just basically reduce as much noise around you as
Yeah.
possible.
Be an
I
adult and make a pillow fort.
exactly. Make a pillow fort. Yeah. I mean, it's just, all these things, there are you can see so many videos online of people trying to make these vocal booths. And you will see some YouTube videos of people with mini like Tupperware things that they stuff with that expensive uh, audio reducing foam.
Hmm.
Don't do that. It doesn't reduce the noise. It will just make an echo chamber because you're not covering the back of your head. Really, what you should be looking at is a pillow fort, guys. Keep that in mind.
Team pillow fort.
Colin, did someone point you in the right direction for voice acting? Did they give you a good piece of advice? Who
Let
really just said, Colin, do this, and it worked?
let me see. I think the best advice that I was given whenever I first started out was that I don't decide what character I'm going to play, because that's the big misconception about voice acting, is that everybody goes into it thinking, "Hey, I'm gonna be the ingenue." That's what I thought I was gonna be. There's just this crazy misconception that you decide what types of characters you're gonna be, but you don't. The directors are gonna choose what they think your voice is best suited for. You're not always as good at things as you think you are. Like, you might not be as great at an accent as you think, and you're gonna learn that very quickly in the world of voice acting. And I think the best thing you can do is just embrace whatever you're good at and work towards the things you're not so good at.
And I think it sounds like what you're trying to say is, you have to be really good at taking direction. You have to approach it with humility and realize that you don't know everything. Sometimes the person you're working with, the casting director or the producer of a project, will be able to hear something that you yourself haven't seen. Of course, you approach the character, you make it your own, but you have to be able to take direction.
Oh yeah, and I know that even recently I've auditioned for a part, and I was like, "Oh, this is going to be great." It was this really big buff guy that was about to beat somebody up. I was like, "Okay, I've got a deep voice. I can do that. I can make him scary, beat up this little dude." And then I got this message back from the director of the thing. He's like, "Hey, could you audition for the wimpy British guy that gets beat up by him?" So, so then I sent in that
Oh,
audition, and
man.
he was like, "Your voice is perfect."
Oh, man. Oh, that is. Oh, I am so sorry.
Oh,
Oh my God.
I actually had a lot of fun playing that character, even though it's not at all what I thought that I would even be considered for in that audition.
And I think that's interesting because directors will often do that. They'll hear a voice and they'll realize, oh, I think this guy would actually be better suited to this part.
Yeah.
It's I had that happen with one of my auditions, where I was auditioning for like a main character, but because I can get like a really deep, gravelly voice, I ended up getting this part that's like kind of requires you to talk like a chain smoker. Yeah, I mean it happens. I mean, it's crazy how often it does, but I
Yeah.
think, you got to realize that they'll hear your voice. Sometimes you don't know your own sound, but other people can kind of take what they're imagining and put that into their project.
Oh yeah. I think the hardest part is reading the script and being like, "Oh my god, I get killed by the guy that I auditioned for."
Exactly. You go from being the hero to the villain there. Yeah. And, I think that'll bring that segment to a close, guys. So why don't we move on here for the listeners? Thank you for tuning in, guys. We are the Road to Becoming a Voice Actor podcast. This is our second episode, which will be up and airing this Wednesday, March 14th. So, Nadia, what have
Yes.
been some situational or personal circumstances that you've faced that you've had to overcome on your road to joining us here on the podcast?
Oh, well, okay. So a lot of my challenges have to do with physical challenges. I don't know how many people know this, but I have a physical disability, so that really hinders me on how to approach certain things, and even with journalism as well. I can't go to every single event because you're dealing with accessibility issues, right? And or it's accessible, and unfortunately, it's still this way in Canada. So I always can't go to an event, or I would get really tired very, very, very quickly. And so using my voice is just another way for me to have fun, right? And yeah, despite everything that I've had to go through, it just shows that voice acting and acting in general is open to everybody, right? It doesn't matter if you cannot walk or use a wheelchair, as long as you can use your voice to some capacity and to convey emotion to the character, you're set. Just be confident and be comfortable behind the mic. So, yeah.
I've come to know you as like an incredibly smart person. You're able to see a bigger picture and realize that, you can do a lot of these things. You've had to be creative with how you've kind of approached, you've transitioned to where you're able to work from home. I mean, I think, that's incredibly commendable. And, I think it's something that I think if you're listening to this and you know, you're feeling like, oh, I don't think I'll be able to do it. Nadia is proof that anyone can overcome this and become great. So, Nadia,
Yeah.
I do want to thank you because you are an inspiration. And, we really do appreciate having you here.
Yeah, it's great to be here. I honestly, when I saw the casting call for this podcast, I actually did this on a whim. Like I had no idea. I was like I was like brand new to the site, and I'm like, oh, this looks interesting. I can use my voice for this. It's kind of like, I can bring my journalistic expertise to this, and I didn't expect to get it. I just kind of just said what I had to say in the audition, and then that was it. I'm really glad to be here. I'm willing to just put in the work with everybody, and you guys have been the most supportive people that I've come to know, and I really appreciate your openness and allowing you guys to get to know me and not the disability, because that's what I've always been afraid of. I don't always say, hey, I've got this going on, because you never know how people are going to be reacting to that.
Yeah.
I just want people to get to know me first, and then I'll tell you if I'm comfortable with you. So it is great to be here, and I don't know. I just, my heart is touched, and I hope that we create more projects together in the future. The future is bright, basically. So no matter what you're going through, you can do anything if you put your mind to it. There's nothing stopping you but yourself.
Yeah. And I think, I really do hope that people take that away. We've all kind of had to overcome some very personal challenges in order to get to where we are, but here we are, still standing, still going at it, plugging away, fighting for that dream. Um, and I think that's what we all really have to do here. Uh, Colin, did you want to say something? I mean, I think right now we were talking about, just some personal circumstances that, you faced on your road right now, uh, in your career with voice acting, what have you basically had to overcome and how did you get around some of the challenges that stood in your way?
Okay, yeah, yeah. I think there are really two big challenges that I've dealt with, and the first was getting stuck in how I think something should be said in a script, like the way a line's delivered. Because I'll read a script and be like, "Oh, this is completely what the character's thinking, what's on his mind right now," and I'll say it, and the director will be like, "That's not at all how he meant to say that." At
Yeah.
that point, at the beginning of my career, I was just looking into something and being like, this is my decision. This is what I'm doing. So then, as soon as the director was like, that's not what I want from him, I would have to completely somehow erase it from my mind and then come up with a new way of approaching the line. And the way I've dealt with that in more recent years is that I've just, when I see a line, I come up with 5 or 6 different ways that I say it before I even get anything stuck in my head. That way I have options to bring to the table from the get-go.
Yeah, and I think you're gonna learn that you don't know a lot, um, and that you got to get that experience under your belt in order to you know own up to your mistakes and basically move on, become a better professional in what you want to do. I think that's what you're trying to say.
Yeah,
Uh,
yeah.
all of us, on the podcast, and for those of you listening, I think all of us really, we have a picture of where we want to be, and it will just you're gonna hit some speed bumps on the way, but you just got to pick yourself up, dust yourself off, and become better for it. On a presently, do you still face anything that is really challenging you in your career? Like, and how are you dealing with it?
As far as voice acting goes, I have to kind of piggyback off of what Colin was saying about line delivery, because I will, excuse me, I will read a line in an audition and think I did it the best possible way that line could be read. Like this is like Colin said, this is how the character wants to say it, and then I'll be like, maybe maybe I'll go ahead and listen to a couple other auditions, and I'm like, oh my god, I didn't even think of that. Like they said the line so much better than I did, so I sometimes do deal with comparing myself to others a little bit because like I said, I'm still kind of new. I'm still starting out at voice acting. It's hard not to compare yourself to others when, especially when you're new, because it's just like I wanna get up there. I wanna climb the ranks. I wanna, the only way to become experienced is by getting experience. So you got to be patient with yourself, and it's something hard for me sometimes.
Casting call definitely is a good place to kind of see how other people are interpreting those lines, but in the bigger audition scenes, like you see those pay to play sites like Voices 1, 2, 3 and Upwork.
Mm.
You're not going to be able to actually listen into other people's auditions. One of the things that I've done is I try to kind of get feedback on my auditions before I post them. See, does this sound right to you, basically? So if I am like auditioning for Lord Voldemort on Gianna Lynn's casting call, she's doing a Harry Potter fanfic. Everyone, go check it out. Do I sound like Voldemort? Do I sound like an evil Dark Lord who's going to try and kill Harry Potter? And, I think that is something that you're not gonna know yourself because no,
Right.
that is not me at all. But you really need to figure out how something should be interpreted. Now, I think, your guys' answers were definitely more professional. Nadia, again, I thank you for sharing some of your personal experiences. What we are trying to do is basically just learn together, and I think knowing what we have to face, along with the professional circumstances, is what is a great takeaway for everyone here. Just combining that, and because your personal circumstances will obviously affect your professional life. So
Yep.
Absolutely.
yeah, I think that'll do it for us today here on the podcast. We are the Road to Becoming a Voice Actor podcast. I have been your moderator, Michael Alio. Go ahead and follow me at the Mike and Knight on Twitter. Please DM me, comment to me. I'm a really nice person. I'm really open. I love talking to people. And with that, I'll turn it over to you, Gianna Lynn, to go ahead and plug away.
Hi, guys. Thank you so much for tuning into the Road to Becoming a Voice Actor's weekday podcast. I am all over the internet, so get ready. I am on Twitter at Gianna Lynn Music with one N in Gianna and two N's in Lynn, and music is spelt music. I am Instagram at Gianna Makes Music, Facebook / Gianna Lynn Music, YouTube / Gianna Lynn Music, and Spotify Gianna Lynn. Thank you so much.
I'm going to turn it over to Colin now. Go ahead and plug yourself, man.
Hey, everybody, I'm Colin, and you can follow me on Twitter and Instagram at Colin Mays VA. That's Colin with two L's and then MAYES, then VA for voice actor. And then I also have a YouTube and a Twitch channel you can follow me at Logiconic, which the easiest way I know to tell people that is log and then iconic, but with a K at the end. And it's both new channels, so there's not really much on there to see right now, but go ahead and follow me anyway. Maybe you'll find something you like.
And with that, we turn to our final co-host for the day, the one, the only, Nadia.
Okay, so you guys can find me at brutalgamer.com, and you can also find me on Casting Call. So feel free to give me a shout out and PM me, message me, do whatever. I'm pretty open to talking to people as well. So it's great to be here, and see you soon.
So for those of you watching on YouTube, you will find all the plugs away in the description below. And for those listeners on Spotify, iTunes, and Google Play, we thank you for listening. This is Michael Alio for the Road to Becoming a Voice Actor podcast, Season 2, Episode 2, signing off.